to Darby and see the same as I. Sing jingle, jingle, Darby, jingle, jingle day. Jingle, jingle, Darby, jingle, jingle day. The wool on that ram's back, sir, was so fine and thin, it took 1,000 girls, sir, 100 years to spin. And if you don't believe me, think I tell a lie, you can go to Darby and see the same as I. Sing jingle, jingle, Darby, jingle, jingle day. Jingle, jingle, Darby, jingle, jingle day. Hey!
Yay!
The other Charlie Fest song that we should sing for them, which is one of our favorites. Actually, I should say that our Charlies first came here in 1858. They were the first Charlies that came from Philadelphia.
Wait, there's... Let them down first.
Need help there? The first trolley that came from Philadelphia out into Delaware County came to Darby in 1858. It was the horse car line, and those of you who came on the trolley know this because there's a mural right across from where you got off the trolley, and that was painted. The car that was painted in the bump out was done on the first stop Trolley Fest in 2005, and then the horses and the drivers were painted on by our friend Ted in 2006. But my favorite song of all the trolley songs is
I took my sweetie down to old Darby, so I could ride upon a PCC. They've got a trolley there, oldest you can find. Listen to it rumbling, love motion on the line.
You're not going to do the whole thing?
You know, those trolley cars are really great.
Thank you.
They've been like that since 1858. At the Trolley Fest, it didn't cost a dime. Listen to it rumbling, love motion on the line. I got aboard, looked around and found me a seat. The cream and green color scheme was really quite neat. I found the whole experience couldn't be beat. I grabbed the rope, I rang a bell, ding, 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 it was a treat. I didn't know that I could ride all day. With other riders, I was in the way. So I said, I thank you, I had a real good time. Listen, see you next at Trolley Fest. Love motion on the line. Love motion on the line. Love motion on the line. Okay, Darby Library. America's oldest public library in continuous use. Founded in 1743. The residents here knew they wanted to start a library, actually encouraged by the Library Company of Philadelphia. John Bartram, who was born in Darby, had connections with Peter Collison in England and asked Peter to supply some books. Bartram, as you may know, was born, do you know this? Well, okay, very quickly. Let's do this quickly.
Yeah.
The legend is Bartram was plowing the field one day and cut down a daisy. I was struck to his very core by its beauty, its symmetry, its complexity. And he said, I've looked at these things all my life, but I've never seen one. What else have I looked at but haven't seen? So he put down his plow, went into town, bought a Latin grammar and the treatise by Carl Linnaeus on botany, and taught himself Latin and botany, and basically started America's first seed catalog company. Because of his connection with Peter Collison, he would ship his things in Bartram boxes, and he said, send them back to us. So the first books in the library, which the library still has,
Upstairs, and you'll see the case they're in.
were shipped back in Bartram boxes, etc. The building was not built until 1872. The library originally was sort of like went from librarian to librarian's house.
Yeah, the librarians kept the books in their house, and then when the library was actually built, I've been on the board of the library since 2005. On the first floor was an apartment for the librarian, and then after a while they decided that the librarian would probably rather live at home, wherever that was, and so they started renting it out, and it was rented. All these stories are interconnected. That's the thing about Darby. Darby is really a hometown. This was Darby Village, and even into the after the 1600s and 1700s, it was still connected. It was still a village, even though it grew bigger. but all the families were connected, and they were involved in commerce in Philadelphia, commerce in Darby, and things like the library, because they were interested in community building. Many of them were Quakers, some of them were not, but they were all interested in having this community thrive.
Okay.
And I started to say that
You were
because,
starting to talk about the art school.
Yeah.
In 1900, Thomas Anschultz and Mr. Breckenridge had a summer art school in Darby dealing with plein air, like open air painting. And I think the students lived here.
No, they lived. They rented the apartment, and
then across the street. No,
they
oh, that's where. Okay, and the art school itself was across the street. We're going to see the airplane house.
Yeah.
I call it the Darby Airport. Landings are very, very, very tricky. It turns out to be a link train or a flight simulator. If you're learning how to fly, you crash that, you walk away from it. That was the house that was owned by Dr. Painter. And Painter was a believer. You may have heard of, I think, Tyler Arboretum. Is Painter, I think it's the same family. Also believed in women's rights. And for an architect around 1880, looking for someone to help design the house, hired Minerva Parker Nichols, who's one of the first women architects to be successful in her own firm.
There's a wonderful website called Finding Minerva.
Preserving Minerva.
Preserving Minerva.
And if you look, and the house that they have there, you can sort of see elements of this house in the same thing. Painter bought it from Passmore Williamson, who owned, ours is the stone house there. And that was all one property owned by the Sellers family. We'll pass by that. You may have heard, who knows Passmore Williamson? Familiar with the name? Okay. Do you know the book, The Price of a Child, which was written by Lorraine Carey from Yeadon?
Yeah.
Okay. That was about the Jane Johnson incident. In 1855, Colonel John Hill Wheeler was bringing his slave woman, Jane Johnson, through Philadelphia with her two sons to go to Nicaragua. He was the U.S. minister to Nicaragua. Pennsylvania had a personal liberty law where a slave brought to Pennsylvania could claim freedom. Wheeler knew about that, said, oh, Jane's not going to leave me. But in the hotel, she whispered to a porter, I want to be free. That porter contacted William Still of the Vigilance Committee. William Still contacted Passmore Williamson, who was a white abolitionist. Together they went with Jane on the boat and said, by the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you're free if you would like. She says, I always wanted to be free, but he holds me. Well, come with us. Wheeler tried to restrain her. He was restrained by deckhands who were standing around. They left the boat. Passmore Williamson, Jane Johnson, her two sons went in one direction. Passmore went back to the office, deliberately not asking where Jane was being taken. The next day, he was served with a writ of habeas corpus that was served by federal judge John Kinsing Kane, who turns out to be the son-in-law of Leeper, of Thomas Leeper House. Produced Jane Johnson in my courtroom so she could be recaptured under the federal fugitive slave law. He was a Quaker, wasn't going to lie. He said, Your Honor, I don't know where she is. Because he didn't ask. Pissed the judge off, threw him to Moy-Mensing prison. He was in prison for 100 days, from July until November. There's a picture of him in front of the camera looking, I've done nothing wrong, etc. At the same time, William Still and the 5 deckhands were put on trial for riot, assault, and kidnapping, because obviously Jane didn't want to leave her kind master, etc. Jane actually came back and testified that she wanted, this was of her own free will and volition. At the courtroom, the back of the courtroom was masked with federal agents determined to recapture her under the federal fugitive slave law. George Corson, who was a Philadelphia policeman, equally determined that she was going to remain free and follow Pennsylvania state law, led them out a side door. Lucretia Mott, who was one of her guardians, said, we did not take our time going home. Except this is all on the website, darbyhistory.com. That's my commercial for that.
Are they taken inside for a little bit?
Do you want to see inside? Yes.
Some of them have been, but I think it's shown in the books, and then you can come down through the history room and out.
Okay.
John, where's the next stop?